Welcome back live to Chatter's Restaurant and Bar. Eddie Love checking along with Pitt State head football coach Tim Beck. Our first installment of his weekly show be here on Mondays throughout the Pitt State football season. One of the good plays last year for quarterback Zach Dickey, dual threat guy for the Gorillas, back for his senior year under center. And so Pittsburgh State, one of the many positions they have more knowns and more questions answered, if you will, because of that experience. Coach, start on the offense. You mentioned, kind of whatever you want to call it, scaled it down or whatnot. But last year, first year with Coach Rampy here, and I think at times you could see the newness of it all when you're trying to have everybody look to the sideline, and communication such a big part of that until you do it at game speed, and then you throw in inexperience on the field. It makes it very tough. Talk about the changes there with that and not quite giving that same look, I guess, pre-snap.
Yeah, I think last year a lot of it still came back to the inexperience with the number of players that we had. So I think that was maybe one of the biggest issues that we had. But last year we started out and we were no huddle, and we still will be no huddle every once in a while. But for the most part, we're going to huddle and break out of the huddle, get to the line of scrimmage very quick, and then go from there. And I think overall, I think our kids feel better about maybe getting in the huddle. They know where to go as soon as the ball's over, ball's dead, where to get to, and we'll be very efficient and very quick getting in and out of the huddle. But that's something that we did a little bit different. But again, the system that we're doing and the things that we're doing, I think overall we're just much more comfortable with at this point in the game.
Zach Dickey, senior, homegrown from Pittsburgh, obviously. A lot of people know of him, a dual threat, and about 1,900 total yards a year ago. In the passing game, he'd be the first to tell you he needed to be better. 48% completion rate, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So you look at that, where did it need to start for him through the offseason to make himself a better passer?
I think number one is just getting comfortable with what Coach Rampy wanted on a lot of our five-step series stuff that we have, and understanding protections a little bit better. I think that we saw some games toward the end of the year last year that you could see him get more comfortable. I think in the Northwest Missouri game, he became more comfortable and dropped the ball off where he needed to, and then knew when to pull it down and run it because he's such a threat with his legs. Again, he had a tremendous offseason. Did a great job in the springtime, worked extremely hard again in the summer, came in and broke our squat record, squatted 645 pounds, so he's a very powerful young man that is definitely a threat to run the ball. And so, you got to be careful, getting 3-man front and 4-man front. You got to be careful of getting defensive linemen out of their pass rush lanes, because if he decides to pull it down and run it, he can cause them some problems.
How much of it with quarterbacks, it seems like the experienced ones, there will come a point, whether it be in a season or in their career, they'll talk about the game slowing down for them, and obviously that's not literal, but what do they mean by that when they talk about the game slowing down?
It's just their comfort level. They get so comfortable, they know if this is not open, they know where to go to, they know who to look to next, and it's exactly where I think we're much improved in that area as far as his feelings for things, and again, we tried to trim everything down a little bit and get to where we get to the personnel packages that we want to. We'll still bounce back and forth from one personnel package to another, one formation to another. We'll get those guys in and out fairly quick, but I think his comfort level of knowing what we want and how we want it is so much higher. I think it will be easier for him this year.
And then you look at the dual threat guys that you've had over the years, as good as anybody at this level. Some teams, they don't want their quarterbacks running around like that. Talk about your philosophy with your quarterbacks as runners.
Well, I just, we believe that you want all 11 guys playing at the time, and I just don't feel like if you just turn around and hand the ball off that you're as effective as you could be offensively. Some teams do that very well, understand that, but this is college football. It's not the NFL, and we want that guy to be a threat, running and throwing, and in the passing game, we also want him to be a threat to be able to pull it down and run with it and scare people to death. So we always believe that a dual threat quarterback, a guy that can do both, is very effective in the college game.
You have a couple of young backups. Anthony Avano is a guy that played for Coach Rampy there at Blue Valley. Dennis Tanner Jr., quarterback in high school at Raytown, came down, played some receiver back there at quarterback. When I talked to Zach in the preseason, he talked about his role working with those guys as it's to ensure the strength of the program in the future, that being certain ways. What have you seen with him in his interaction with those young quarterbacks?
Well, him and Anthony have worked really well together, and early on in the spring we felt like we had a good competition going between those two, and Anthony's is also a great threat, has a tremendous arm, maybe not quite the runner that Zach is, but unbelievable at feeling pressure in the pocket and moving around in the pocket, finding open receivers. And so, they will complement each other really well. And, we'll just have to kind of wait and see how the game goes on whether or not we put Anthony in or not, or that's yet to be determined. But just kind of have to see how the flow of the game is going. But, we feel good about Anthony Abinoa in the future, and he's also got to understand right now he's, one play away from maybe playing 60, 70 plays in a game. And so, he has to prepare himself like he is a starter.
He's a little bigger than Zach, listed at 6'3", 212. Is he a similar type player that has some of those dual threat qualities?
Well, I think he's a dual threat. I think he's a little bit deceptive sometimes in the running game. When he pulls it down and runs it, he's maybe a little bit faster. He plays probably faster than he runs a 40. But again, his strength is throwing the ball around. He has a very good understanding of the passing game and what we're trying to do there, and he can zip it pretty good. He's got a strong arm, so probably throwing is a little bit more his strength. But you get to thinking he can't move, and the next thing you know, he'll run past you.
You ever seen him unhook it with a baseball and see how far he can throw it?
No, we try to keep the baseballs away from the football field.
And you said he's one play away from being in there as a starter. How important is it to get those guys a couple of snaps in a meaningful situation, and maybe it's just a little bit here and there to get some film on them or whatever it may be?
Well, we've talked about that. That's something we'll have to, like I said again, we'll have to wait and see how the flow of the game goes, because we would like to get him in there early, and knock on wood, you don't have this happen. But if something happens in your game 3 or 4, and Zach has to go out for a couple of plays, he gets dinged or gets the air knocked out of him or whatever the case may be, and Anthony hasn't had any reps up to that point, then you don't feel as good about it as you would if you could get him in there in some meaningful reps right now. So again, we'll wait and see. We've talked about kind of a plan for that, but kind of have to see how the flow of the game goes.
Your running backs, good depth there, good versatility. You have, to me, a thunder and lightning approach with Wilson and Watkins. You have guys like Spradling and Love that are serviceable. They're system guys. They can do a couple of different things for you. Your backfield as a whole, how do you feel with a stable of backs you have?
Well, we're going to play some 1-back sets, some 2-back sets, and some 3-back sets. So there's an opportunity for all of them to play. Erik Love's been a guy that's really paid his dues and had a good spring for us. He's very deceptive running the ball because he's very shifty and he's hard to tackle. And him and Spradling are tremendous blockers. They know how to get guys on the ground. They're good cut blockers. Back when we had Joe Taylor, he was maybe the best cut block guy we ever had. But these guys can get guys on the ground, which is extremely important. But along with that, you don't feel bad when they've got the ball in their hands. So that's helpful. We've also Coach Weimer's recruited a young man from Red Oak, Texas, Mandel Dixon, who came in as a tight end, but he's also an H-back type guy that will play in the backfield some as well, and he's 6'2", 240-pound freshman. He's one of the 2 freshmen that we're not going to redshirt.
You look at Bryce Wilson and how he's progressed in his time here, a linebacker 1 year at Dodge City, then a redshirt year, the move to the backfield. Seems like he's worked hard when he's been here as far as trying to get himself in better shape, but 6'1", 230, that physical presence pretty valuable for you.
Yeah, and Bryson is much further along than he was a year ago. He came in and passed our gasser test, which is extremely hard for a 230-pound running back to do that. And so he's in much better shape than he was a year ago. And we've talked about him getting a tremendous amount of more carries than he did last year at this time. And conditioning was an issue with him last year, and I don't think it will be this year.
Solomon Watkins can do a couple things, but certainly has the burst, a guy that can get on the edge. But, boy, looks good, body type and all that. What kind of player can he be for you?
He can be a very good player for us. And, again, he's, a speed guy and maybe the fastest running back that we have. And he's a guy that needs to get the football in his hands. When he did last year, he made things happen. And And you're right. I mean, he can do some things, and so Solomon's definitely a guy that could be a game breaker for us, and we need to find a way to get the ball in his hands.
When you have that number of weapons, how important is it for all of them to maybe not try and do too much, that maybe recognize they do have different strengths?
Well, that and the first thing is they have to be unselfish. They have to understand that we've got a game plan against defense is what we feel like's best. It's our offensive coach's job to get the ball in the guys that have an opportunity to go score. And so they have to be unselfish and not get impatient at times. We've got to get it in their hands, and then they've got to take advantage of their opportunity when they get it and go do something with it.
Well, the backfield, it'll be fun to watch those guys all do their different things throughout this coming season. All right, break time for us. When we come back, we'll have our Vital Signs trivia contest for the Gorilla Nation Mobile Fan Club, and also continue with Coach Beck on that offensive side of the football. That and more when we come back to Chatters.